in the early 80s, were you aware of the French post-punk scene or not at all? For example, the Affection Place in Lyon and all the older bands from Lyon, Paris, and elsewhere.
No, not until we arrived in Paris. In Lyon. In those days, there wasn't a lot of press in the UK for French bands. Even the biggest French bands, there was very little publicity.
Yeah, I guess the English press was considering French music like French people are considering English wine, something like that.
Sure. Yeah. I think it was. I think the American press as well are very self-isolating, really, with their own country's music, and I think it has always crossed over between the UK and USA, but there hasn't been that same sort of exchange with France, Italy, or Germany. Some things in Germany, but very, very few. Mm-hmm. It's stupid, very sad, really.
Okay, so how come did you meet Affection Place any day? I mean, what was the connection between you and them, and how did that story began with them?
Do you mean after we played the gig together, or do you mean how we reconnected to make music together again?
Yeah, how do you reconnect to make music with them?
Okay, an email from Xavier saying, do you remember we worked together, which I did, and he asked if I would like to work, produce or do some keyboards, just see how things could develop and maybe do an album together, which was like fantastic to come out of nowhere from 38 years or something, 39 years ago. It's these things just happen, and it's fantastic when they do, for all sorts of reasons.
So is it your first collaboration with a French band?
Yes. The only thing close was in Visage days when I worked on a track with a woman singer called Ronnie. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you heard of her.
I don't think so.
She was a model, French model. She also did some singing as well. So she came to London, and we recorded a Sly Stone song with her, If You Want Me to Stay.
Mm-hmm.
Is that the one singing on We Fade to Grey?
No, that's another woman. Yeah. No, this was about 2 years later, maybe after Fade to Grey. Yeah. But Rusty Egan, the drummer with Visage, still talks about it. He still writes about it on Facebook all the time. Oh, you got to hear this track from Ronnie and the Visage. It was Rusty, Barry Adamson, the bass player, and me on keyboards, and we just played together. And I think Midge came in later and put some synthesizer on.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's not a bad version of the song. I mean, you're treading on dangerous ground when you start covering Sly and the Family Stone.
Mm-hmm. So, Affection Place is supposed to be a guitar band. So, what was your work as a keyboard player to do some stuff with them?
With Affection Place?
Yeah.
A challenge. No, I've always worked. I'm joking, really. I've always worked with guitar players. I mean, with Magazine, John McGee, the guitarist of Magazine, and I got on very well personally and musically. We really, played off each other, and as friends, we we were able to, like you do with good friends, you can spar between words together and phrases, and that's how it was musically. So I've always, since I was 17, 18, I've had relationships with the guitarists in bands and found out how to work with guitar players.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I would hate to be in a band with another keyboard player in the band. Apart from Billy Perry, of course.
There's not so many bands with two quick keyboard players.
I felt sometimes with Magazine I needed another player. But that's my own fault for doing too many overdubs in the studio.
Okay. I'm sorry, my mic was not off, so was not on. So. I used to say I really love the Ronnie version because I used to play it a lot when I'm DJing at the Bandouche back in '82.
Oh, okay.
It was a wonderful, wonderful track, and the cover of the first one was just amazing too.
Yeah.
And did you are involved in a Do What You Want to Do version of T-Connection by Rusty Egan or not? With Nona Hendrix.
No, I wasn't involved in that.
Yeah.
I moved on by then, yeah.
It's a DJ thing.
Yeah.
So then your work on the Affliction Place album was really a producer work, or you were just adding some stuff, or I mean, is it? Are you really part of the project?
I hope so. Yeah, yeah. It was production and keyboard playing.
Mm.
I mean, the initial idea before the whole coronavirus thing was that the band were going to come here for maybe to do all the tracks, two or three weeks maybe, and then I would put some keyboards on and then mix it, and maybe they'd come back after, to do the final mixes together. That was the initial plan, and hopefully we can still pick that up at some point before too long. Fingers crossed.
So you were not that involved in the writing of the songs, in the composing of the songs. I mean, you took the songs they were already ready. You just add some stuff.
Yeah, the songs were well developed, but I hopefully added and expanded to the tracks in different ways, obviously with keyboards, but also with production ideas. Hopefully, I was able to put, not detached. I mean, if you write songs and you're involved, sometimes it's good to get someone else in that doesn't have that very close contact with it, because you see it from a different angle.
Yeah.
Hopefully, I was bringing some of that towards it.
It must be quite complicated to work on an album being in another country that are not in the same room.
Yeah, it makes it. It takes longer because you don't have that instant communication. If you're, had we all been together in the studio, obviously you work faster because it's hands-on and you're close together. So, but you find a way around it. So for the last, not all the time, but I've been working on tracks, an album with a guy called Gustavo who lives in Mexico City. I've been putting keyboards on all his tracks and doing some mixing and editing for him. And yeah, it's difficult, but I've loved the fact that I can work with people, carry on working with people, even though nobody's been able to come in the studio. It's kept me sort of focused and sane. It's kept me from going mad in a way.
what was the reason of your choice to work with them? I mean, how did that seduce you with their music?
Well, because I was playing together, and I remembered the gig, and I remember we really liked them as a band. We played twice together, I think, and then, like I said before, to make that reconnection so many years later, and then hear some of the songs, I could still hear the connection of why we liked Affection Place in 1980, because there were musical connections with Magazine and the way they constructed songs and presented them. So it was something that I thought, yeah, I can bring something to this. If someone asked me to work with them, and I found the music really difficult, I wouldn't work with them. I wouldn't like to do that, because I don't think you can. You've got to have some relationship with the music to be able to give it your best. So, yeah, it was great to hear those connections across the years, and that was the reason why, having heard the songs, I wanted to work with them.
And considering the fact that they stopped acting like a band for nearly 40 years, you think the work you did together is music for 2021 or from the 80s?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question, because in a way, a similar thing happened with Magazine. We broke up in 81 and then reformed in 2009. And then recorded an album in 2010. So there's it's kind of a parallel experience. You know, things are still happening the same for both bands in a way. I'm not trying to overstate this point, but there is a connection from that point of view.
Yeah, but that's a huge gap between the two periods. So does the music sound like nowadays, or does the music sound like today?
Well, I think we were both ahead of our time in 1979, 1980, 81. So we had a big advantage because we were doing stuff that was quite futuristic, I think, at the time. So, I feel that it does sound very relevant now. Obviously, there was adjustments in things, the way we wrote with Magazine, and obviously with Affection Place. They have adjusted with all the influences that must have gone in for them and us over those years between. You're picking up stuff all the time, so it'd be very sad, I think, if both bands were trying to sound exactly the same as they did in 1980.
Yeah, sure.
So I think there's that development that's happened. Yeah, totally relevant, yeah.
And is it relevant to do that kind of rock music now that the urban music is everywhere, and the music that we hear in the radio is full of synths and of hooks and gimmicks and with Dua Lipa or people like that? I mean, it's not the same culture. It's not the same sound. So what's the point to do that kind of music now?
What, the Affection Place and Magazine music?
Yeah.
because I think there's...
I know it's not very kind as a question.
No, it's a perfectly fair question. For me, I think there's obviously a lot of people from that period. I was quite old in Magazine. I was the oldest member in Magazine. Mm-hmm. So a lot of the people that used to come and see Magazine in late 70s and 80s were 10 or 15 years younger than me. Mm-hmm. So they're still around. They're still, in their late 50s, 55, 58, whatever, 60. and they still listen to music and buy records. So there's all those people that will have, gone across the years and still like this kind of music. But at a lot of the magazine shows in 2009 and 11, there was a lot of young people. Whether it was all the father, it was all their fathers that had forced them to come to the concert with them. You're going to see this band. Mm-hmm. I'm joking. I think a lot of young people have picked up on magazine. There's no reason that can't be the same for Affection Plays. Because if the music's good, it doesn't matter if it's not, what you're talking about is pop music, the current pop music as much as anything. Okay, magazine and Affection Place were involved with a branch of pop music, but it wasn't the mainstream pop music. And I think that is much more subjective to fashion than the kind of music both bands were playing and are playing now. Yeah. There's an audience for both bands, I think.
Mm. Yeah, it goes further than nostalgia. I mean, we all think, what the five of us here think that you can reach some new listener. I mean, people in their 20s who could be curious or fed up with urban music, urban pop, and stuff like that.
Well, absolutely, yeah. The fact that we had, when we reformed, most of Radiohead came to see our first gig. They've always been huge fans of the band. They're not young men, but they're a lot younger than us. So yeah, I think music touches you. It doesn't matter who makes it. If you like it, it doesn't matter. And yes, young people, I think, will always like good music if they find it. If there's people that just take what they're given, and there's people that go, like you, I'm sure, of all their life has gone out and searched out music.
Yeah. Mm.
And I think they're the people that like magazine and Affection Plays.
And do you plan to go further than this collaboration? I mean, do you plan, for example, to play live with them sometime?
I would be happy to if the guys want me to, yeah. Mm-hmm. If I'm still alive.
And if you can cross the border.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be less easy now with the Brexit.
Don't talk to me about Brexit. I should come and live in France. I don't know about anything else.